How you doing guys? Bioinformatics guy here with another video, and in this video we will be talking about the for loops. So these are also known as iterations. Now if you have like 100,000 files, let's say that you have FASTA files and you want to go over to the each and every file and then you want to extract some information from that file. So technically what we have learned so far, we can use the while loop, but otherwise if we did not know the while loop, then we have to run that specific line of code like 1,000 times. It can be even more than one lines of code that we have to run over 1,000 times, so which is not so elegant way to do that. So in this video we will be talking about the for loop, and we will be talking about the basic idea, file iteration, dictionary iteration, numbering iterations, and then we will talk about the repeat and collect. So these are different things that we can usually do with the for loop. So let's start coding. Alright, so let's start with the basic idea and the pseudocode for the for loop, and it starts with the keyword for, and then you use a variable, and we can say this item, then we say for item in, and after that you are iterating over a collection. So that's why here you have to mention some sort of collection. So right now I will just write collection, and then you do something under the for loop, and you do something with the item, and item is our variable, and in this variable with each iteration the next item will be stored, and so you will have access to each item in the collection one by one. Okay, so now we are done with the basic idea, and let's write some very basic fundamental kind of for loop. Since we iterate over the collection, so we will have to define a new collection. So we can define a new list over here, and we can store anything, but for now I'm gonna store 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5. All right, and then we will start our for loop with the for keyword. So for, and then we will use our variable name item in, and then we have to write down the name of our collection, which is lst. All right, and after that we can do anything we want to do with the item, and for the sake of simplicity, let's just print the item. Print, and we can say item. All right, so let's run this and see, we got 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so you can see that these are printed, everything is printed in next line. So 1 is printed over here, and then you can see that 2 is printed here, after that 3 4 5 is printed. So now we know that we are iterating over the list. Another important thing that I also talked about to you previously when I started the video, that was file iteration. File iteration. Okay, and in file iteration, well, I talked about like iterating over 1,000 files, but sometimes you have to iterate over the lines in a single file, and here we will be using seek.dump file again. I guess you are familiar with this file. So let's talk about the basic idea of file iteration with the help of for loop. We will be going through the pseudocode here. So you use the keyword with, and then you use this open function, and you give it file name, and then you store this in the file variable. So you will write down with open, in the parentheses you will write down file name as the parameter, and then you will say as file, so that you don't have to type the long name again and again. And then you will start your for loop over here. So you will say for line in file, and then here in the for loop you can do something with the line. All right, so that is the basic idea and the pseudocode for file iteration. Let's take a look at a code example. So we will say that with open, and in parentheses we have to give the name of the file, which is seek_dump.txt, and remember, always you have to give the names of the files in inverted commas. So, and then we will say as file, and after that we will start our for loop for line in file. Then we have to do something. Well, what we can do is we can simply print the line. So we will say print, and we will say line. All right, so let's run this block of code, and now you can see that the contents of the files are printed, and you say that our contents are exceeding the size limit, so only a limited number of the lines are going to be printed over here. But in theory, if you will run this and you will perform some sort of function, that function will be applied to all the lines in the files. All right, so that's pretty much it about file iteration. Now let's talk about dictionary iteration. Let's take a look at the basic idea and the pseudocode for dictionary iteration. Well, basically dictionary iterations can be performed on the keys values or keys values both at a time. So here the pseudocode will go very similar to the for loop we have defined previously. So we will say for key in dictionary.keys, and then we will do something with key. All right, so that's pretty easy. Let's take a look at the code example. So in order to take a look at the code example, we have to define a dictionary first. So okay, so we can say our first key will be 1 and our value is going to be 1 in the integer. Then our second key could be 2 and its value could be 2 as integer. Then we can add another key 3 and we can use its value 3, integer 3. Okay, so now it's time to define the for loop for key in dictionary dot keys. Then we can simply print our key. So before I run this code, you may wanna pause the video and tell me and write down in the comments that after running this block of code, 1 will be printed as ONE1 or the integer 1. So are you done checking that? So let's run this. So it printed 1 in what do you say, alphabetical form, like ONE1, CWO2, and CHREE3, because in a dictionary the first element or the element which is on the left side of the colon is the key, and on the right side we have the value. So that is about dictionary iteration. And before we move on, I have a little task for you. So now we have just iterated over the keys in the dictionary. What if you want to iterate over the values in the dictionary? And how will you write the code? What will be the code if you want to iterate over the values as well as the keys? So I will put this in the GitHub repository, the question, the task, and along with the hint as well. So you can take a look at it, and then maybe you can solve this and comment down your solutions over there in the comments. Next, we will be talking about repeat. All right. Yeah. So So to repeat a block of statement n times, you iterate over a range, and which is usually n times. So before we write down the code, I would like to have a look at the pseudocode. So we will say for count, and count is a variable name over here. So we will say for count in range, and then we can give it a range till n, and then we will do something. We can add some statements over here. All right, so once we are done with the pseudocode, let's talk about a basic example of the code. So now what you want to do is you want to print some kmer like 10 times. So what we will do is we will say for count in range 10, we will print the kmer could be atgc. all right, and if I run this code, atgc will be printed 10 times. See, this is printed 10 times. Now we have done this, and we are using the for loops over and over again. And if you have watched my video for comprehensions, and in the list comprehensions we use the for loop over and over again, and we were making new lists in just one line of code. So these two lines of code can do the same thing by writing a bit of different code in just one line. So you might want to go and try that as well to brush up on your list comprehensions skills. So next we will talk about collect, and that will be the last thing in this video. And let me add a new heading here. So next we will talk about collect. All right, and a collect iteration starts with an empty collection. So you have like an empty bucket at the start, and as long as you move on, you iterate over something, you take the useful stuff and you put it in your empty bucket. All right, so let's take a look at the pseudocode. We will initialize our empty collection, and we can say result. And this collection could be anything. It could be a list, it could be a dictionary, it could be a set, or anything. So then we will start our for loop for item in collection. And remember that this collection is different than the collection over here. So, or maybe I should write empty collection so that you don't get confused. All right, so then once we are in our for loop, then we will write down some statements using the item, and then we will append our result. Dot append, then we can add an expression based on the statements. Okay, and now it's time to write down the code for this, which is gonna be a bit complicated, but don't get scared. It's will get easy as soon as we write down and have a hands-on experience. So we will be defining a new function, and we will name it read faster iteration, and we will give it the file name. So before we write down the code for this function, I would like to explain what we're going to be doing in this function. So as you can see, this is our same old FASTA file that we use all the time, and you can see that we have several FASTA sequences over here and different sequences over here, and each sequence starts with this greater than sign, and after that we have the description of the sequence, and then from the next line the sequence itself starts. And then you can see in this line 20 we have another sequence starting, like the description of the sequence starting in line 20, and in the next line we have the sequence. So what we want is we want to extract these descriptions, and then we want to have this sequence. So we want a set of tuples in which the first element of the tuple is the description of the sequence and the second element is the sequence itself. And we want to get all the sequences, like if you see over here you have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9 sequences here in this file. So we want 9 tuples, and in each tuple the first element will be the description and the second element will be the sequence itself. So let's get back to where we were writing our code. Alright, so let's define a doc string. So returns a list of tuples in which each element of the first element of tuple is the description of the FASTA sequence, and the second element is the sequence. And since we are gonna give it a FASTA file, so we can say that given a FASTA file returns a list of all the tuples in which the first element of the tuple is description of the FASTA sequence and the second element is the sequence itself. Okay, so now I will make some more real estate over here. So we will start by defining our empty collection over here, and we will say sequences is equals to empty list, and then we will also have to initialize a description variable, and we will initialize it with none. So we will open our file with the with keyword. So with open file name as file, and now we are ready to start our for loop. So we will say for line in file, and then we will check that if line 0th element means line 0, line 0 is greater than sign, then we will check that if we already have the description, then for now we will append the tuple to our list of sequences. So we will say sequences dot append, and then we will give it a tuple. So we have to add another set of parentheses. So we will say description and the sequence. If we don't have the description, then we will define our description again, and our description is simply gonna be line, and we will omit its first character. So we will start with 1 rather than starting with 0, and we will go all the way till the end. So that's why we are writing -1, and then we will split it by this sign. Usually we have this bar sign in our description of FASTA file. So, and we will also update our seek over here, because as soon as we find a new description, or as soon as any line starts with the greater than sign in the FASTA file, we know that the previous sequence has ended, like all the lines of the previous sequence are done, and we have a new sequence starting over here. So we will set our sequence to an empty string over here. All right, and then here we will keep on adding lines to our sequence. So we will append sequence, because if a line is not starting with a greater than sign, then we know that it is starting with ATGC, which will be part of the sequence. All right, then we will say that seek is equals to seek plus our line, and here we will be wanting the complete line. All right, and then at the end of our for loop, we will want to add the very last sequence. So we will say sequences dot append, and then we will say that descript comma seek. All right, and we want to make it a tuple, so I will add another pair of parenthesis brackets, and at the very end we will return our list of sequences. So it's gonna be return sequences. So we are done with defining the function, and this is a good function. We will be adding it to our file in which we collect all of our functions. So let's run this code, and we will be printing read FASTA iteration, and we will give it name of the file seek.dump.txt, and it's time to run the code. So here you can see that we got the description, and then we got the sequence itself. So if I scroll to right, you will see that you got all the sequence, and then you can see that here that tuple is ending and then new tuple is starting, and here you will have the description, and once the description ends, then the next element is starting from this line, and here you have the sequence again. So that's pretty much it for now. So these are the few basic things about the for loop that I wanted to share with you, and in the next video we will be talking about some advanced topics in the for loops. But I would like to intensify this thing that for loops are really important for doing a lot of things in bioinformatics. So please don't skip that video, and do subscribe my channel to get a notification once that video is out. And thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about this video, feel free to write down a comment. And if you want to join our community, you can join our Facebook group. You can also follow me on socials. I will put the links just below the like button. And one more thing, we have started our Discord channel. You can also join that from the description. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you around in the next video.